Lesson 2.6. Today we're going to be talking about the coordinate system. So we've already talked about the coordinate plane a little bit last chapter, but last chapter we were only working in this area. So we were working with only positive numbers and we were making like scatter plots and graphing data and things like that. But this time we're going to be talking about the whole coordinate plane. So let's revisit some of those basic things that are in a coordinate plane. So our horizontal axis is our x-axis. So remember, these are like number lines. So this is the origin. So this is like where 0 is on the number line. And all these numbers are going to be positive and all these numbers are going to be negative. So this is the x-axis. The vertical axis is called the y-axis. And if this is the origin, so this is also 0 for the y-axis, everything above it is going to be positive and everything below it is going to be negative. Now, so we talked about the x-axis, the origin, and the y-axis last time. We also talked about an ordered pair. An ordered pair has our x-coordinate, comma, our y-coordinate. So where we're going horizontally, comma, where we're going vertically. So we talked about that last time as well. Now this time we're going to introduce a new concept for you, and that is the quadrant. If you look over here, you'll see that I labeled all of these with Q's, and that Q is representing the quadrant that it's in. And if you see in the word quadrant, a quad means 4. So we have 4 different quadrants. Now, we start with our top right quadrant, and we name this quadrant 1. Now, in this quadrant, all of our x values and all of our y values are going to be positive. Because no matter where you put a point in here, you have to go right and up, which are both positive axes. So our x and y are positive in quadrant 1. Now when naming our quadrants, we go counterclockwise. So that means our second quadrant is going to be over here. So in quadrant number 2, our x values are going to be negative and our y values are going to be positive. All of our x values are going to be negative no matter what point you have over here because you're moving to the left of the origin. So when you're moving left, it's negative. So we're moving left, negative, and up, which is positive. So that's why we have negative and positive. So if we're continuing going counterclockwise, our quadrant 3 is down here. Now in this quadrant, both the x-coordinates and y-coordinates of any point down here are going to be negative. Because that is because we start at the origin and we go left and down, which are both negative x. So going left gives us a negative x and going down will give us our negative y. Continuing around, we have our fourth quadrant, which is over here. And in our fourth quadrant, all of our x values are going to be positive and all of our y values are going to be negative. Because that means anytime you put a point in this area, you have to move to the right of the graph, which is positive for our x value, and we have to move down, which is negative for our y values. Alright, so let's go ahead and use what we know about the coordinate system and the coordinate plane to practice graphing some points, being able to name the quadrant that those points are in, and things like that. So let's go ahead and look at a few examples.
Alright, let's go ahead and look at our coordinate plane. When I drew my coordinate plane and then I went ahead and labeled all of the important parts. So this horizontal axis, I named it the x-axis, and the vertical axis I named the y-axis, and then I named the origin. Just to remember that this is always where I start and it's always 0, 0, because it's 0 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. Okay, this time I also labeled our numbers. So all of this side of the x-axis is positive. All of this side of the x-axis is negative, just like a number line. And then at the top, we have all of our y-coordinates are positive, and at the bottom, all our y-coordinates are negative. All right, if you notice, we have several points labeled and dispersed throughout the graph. We're going to go ahead and find what the ordered pair is for each of these letters. So if we look at A, we have to figure out what is the x-coordinate and what is the y-coordinate. So if I start at the origin, how many did I have to go over to be able to reach where A is? I have to go over to 4, which means I have a positive 4, and I had to go up to 5, which gives me a positive 5. So 4, 5, that is our ordered pair. So 4, 5. All right, let's go ahead and look at B. Oh, also, I wanted to let you know that point A is in quadrant 1 because both the x and y values are positive. All right, let's go ahead and look at B. Point B, how do we get there? We have to start at the origin, and we have to move horizontally first. So how do we move on the x-axis? We had to go ahead and move to a negative 3 on our x-axis. So it's going to be negative 3. And we had to go up to 3. So x is positive, or y is positive, and x is negative. So we have negative 3 comma 3 is going to give us B. And this is in quadrant 2, because we're moving counterclockwise, and also all of our x values are negative. And that's one of our rules for our quadrant number 2. Let's go ahead and look at C. How do we get to C? Let's go ahead and start at the origin, and first we have to move horizontally. So let's go ahead, we have to move left, so that means we're going to have a negative value, and it's going to be a negative 3. And then we're going to go down to negative 2, which is also a negative value. So that means that we're going to be in quadrant 3 because both our x and y values are negative. Let's go ahead and look at D over here. Now, how do we get to D? We first start at the origin, and we have to move horizontally first. So I have to move to the right, which means I'm going to have a positive value, and I land on a positive 7. And then I have to go down, which is a negative value, and I land on negative 5. So this is in quadrant 4 because all my y values are negative. All right, let's go ahead and look at F, G, and H, these 3 points right here. Now, this time, they gave us the ordered pair, and we have to find the point. So let's go ahead and find point 0, 3. So let's start at the origin, and we have to move left or right 0 points. So I'm going to stay right here, and now I'm going to move up 3. So my point is actually going to be on the y-axis. So it's not in any quadrant, it's on the y-axis. And this is point F. All right, let's go ahead and make point G. So point G is at the point negative 7, comma negative 5, which means I'm going to be in quadrant 3 because that's where both are negative. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the origin and move left 7 and down 5. Which will give us our point G. So there's point G. We went over 7 and down 5. Let's go ahead and look at point H. Let's go ahead and start at the origin, and we are going to move right 3 because it's a positive 3, and then we're going to move down to a negative 8. And this will give us point H. All right, our last problem is a word problem. It wants us to graph the points, a lowercase a, which is negative 4, 3. We have a lowercase b, which is 1, 3. We have lowercase c, which is 1, 2. And lowercase d, which is negative 4, 2, on a coordinate plane. So we're going to graph those 4 points and connect them to form a triangle. So they're going to show us a shape. And then we're going to name the quadrant that each point is located. So let's go ahead and start at point A. Point A is at negative 4, comma 3, so we're going to start at the origin and move left 4, because we have to go horizontally first, and then we're going to move up 3. So this is going to give me point lowercase a, and this is in quadrant 2 because my x value is negative. My next point, lowercase b, is at 1, comma 3. So that means I'm going to have to start at the origin, go to the right 1, and go up 3. This is our lowercase b. Okay, to find point C, I'm going to start at the origin. I'm going to go to the right 1, and I'm going to go up 2. And last point D, we are going to go ahead and start at the origin. Go left 4, since we have to go horizontally first. Then we're going to go up 2. Right here, point D. Now they want us to go ahead and connect our rectangles. So I'm going to go ahead and connect. Okay. So if we look up here, we see both A and B are in quadrant 2 because they both have a negative number, and then as the x value. And then B and C are both in quadrant 1 because they both have positive x and y values. All right. We are going to go ahead and give you some problems to do on your own for tomorrow.
All right, we have quite a few things to do tonight before tomorrow. I want to make sure that you know
and understand everything about the graph. Okay, number 1, I want you to go ahead and make a coordinate system. Then number 2, go ahead and label it. Make sure you label the x-axis, the y-axis, the origin, quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. And then go ahead and plot the following points. So plot A, which is 3, 5, B, which is -4, -1, C, which is -5, 6, and D, which is 0, -3. Then I want you to tell me which quadrant each of those is in and explain why it's in that quadrant. Alright, we'll see what you get tomorrow. Good luck.